Hey everyone, welcome to Otaku Talk. Not gonna lie, been having kind of a strenuous day. There was a massive thunderstorm and my basement flooded, aka my studio. So as I'm saying all this, I'm surrounded by water, and yeah, I got up most of it, but yeah, it's gonna be a bitch to deal with. So I'm gonna finish this up, edit, post, and then figure out what the fuck I'm about to do later. But anyway, you're not here for that. You're here for my review on Loki, the new Disney Plus series. And I'll be honest with you guys, I've never really been a fan of Loki. And I'm one of those people that the more people kind of fanboy and fangirl over, I have a tendency to be like adverse to them just because I don't. I always feel like it's for superficial reasons. And once again, that could just be me being pretentious. I'll always be honest about my thoughts on this kind of thing. But I always liked Loki's character in the comics and stuff. And then I always kind of hated how the MCU kind of makes a caricature of these characters we love. They've done it with the Hulk and a bunch of other people. So the fact that like Loki's this whatever pretty boy that all these girls swoon over, and like he's ambiguously not a villain, and like he's a heartthrob and all this stuff kind of has gotten on my nerves. But anyway, without much further ado, let's get into it. But if this is your first time on my channel, I would really appreciate if you would like, share, and subscribe. Predominantly subscribe, hit that bell, would do me such a favor. Trying to get 1,000 subscribers, so do me a solid. And without much further ado, let's get into it. So, episode 1 of Loki. Not gonna lie, was really interesting. I ended up watching it with a friend, wasn't planning on doing a review, watched it and figured, hey, might as well talk about it. I love comic stuff, and the show has some, good bones in the beginning. I was watching it with a friend, and they were kind of upset because they're a big Loki fan, and Loki pretty much continued his tradition of getting bitched on screen. Every movie, every appearance this man has had, he has looked bad. He has always been clowned. And I just feel bad, but that's just part of Loki's character. Like, he's just the butt of the joke most of the time. And there's more to it. And I'm going to get more into that in the review. But long story short, we start off back when he's getting arrested in Avengers Tower by S.H.I.E.L.D. Ant-Man shows up. They do the whole time heist thing. And during that time heist, Loki gets his hands on the Tesseract and just disappears, right? So this continues right after that, and Loki uses the Tesseract to travel through space and time, and through time, even though I was pretty sure the Tesseract was the Space Stone, because the Eye of Agamotto, the green one, was Doctor Strange's stone. So for him to be able to travel through time and try to with the Tesseract was a little bit confusing to me, but whatever, let's just take it and let's just go with it. They're just trying to set up a story here. Let's not give him that big of an issue. So he ends up in this desert somewhere, the Gobi Desert. Yeah, the Gobi Desert. And he, does typical Loki fashion. Hey, I'm Loki. I'm a god of Asgard. I'm here to take over. He's not even really into all that yet when these, let's call them time cops, right? These time cops show up and immediately arrest and detain Loki. It
was super easy, barely an inconvenience.
And I was just like, what? Are you kidding me? You're a god of Asgard. How are you getting jacked like this? And so the story immediately propels us into this situation where, okay, it looks like even though he's a power that be, he's not a power that be. So, and let's get into that later. So I was getting a little bit annoyed. I'm like, yo, why are you letting them do this? Why haven't you used your powers yet? What's going on? He goes through he's basically what seems to be like a court system. There plays with Tara Strong's voice. She's a clock, and it basically goes and explains that the TVA is this group of agents that go and rectify any issues with the time stream. Now, around this part, Loki says something that's very interesting to me and that I said earlier, and I was like, whoa. What about the Avengers? What about everyone else that time travels? And according to the TVA, those are warranted, sanctioned exceptions. Basically, there's a sacred timeline, a main timeline. And these people called the timekeepers basically say, hey, we want time to go like this. We want this to happen, and then we want this to be how it ends, beginning to end, right? And any deviation from that is a violation, and we shut that shit down. So basically, the Avengers time travel was sanctioned. Now, the Avengers, did they know this? Of course not. This is some powers that be type shit. But once again, Loki's like, butt of the stick, whatever, trying to figure it out. And so basically, what happens is he goes to court, and they tell him, hey, we find you guilty, and we're going to reset you. And from what I understand, resetting is basically wiping, putting you back where you belong in time, wiping your memories of what happened after you disrupted time, and just letting the timeline continue. And we've seen this line before in the other movies where you have the red line and then you see the diverging lines. As long as the diverging lines don't touch the red line, things can be rectified. History won't change too much. And so something really interesting that happens is Owen Wilson's character, Agent Mobius, and if in case you thinking Mobius, most people are going to go to the Matrix, but I go to the Mobius strip, which is basically an infinite loop of time, I believe. I should have, before this video, checked it out, but I believe a Mobius strip is just an infinite loop of time and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And he basically goes to Loki, and basically he's requesting his help. But before he does that, he's basically doing like an interrogation kind of interview with him. And something I didn't quite understand was he seemed to be antagonizing him. And it's funny because he says that he's a fan of Loki, but at the same time, he kind of acts as though he's clowning Loki. And so I was trying to figure out what exactly is the catch here. Also, before I forget, I just remember the person that originally passed the judgment on Loki was the love interest of Kang the Conqueror, and I do believe that Kang the Conqueror will play an intricate and vital role in this series at some point. Part of me once had a feeling. I didn't even know this was a girl, by the way. I'm stupid. I have to go look back because I was reading a review and said it was a girl, but I thought it was a dude, the French person they met earlier, and I thought, oh, is that Iron Lad? Blah blah. But anyway, well, a lot of you might not know about Kang the Conqueror. I'm going like this way, I'm going that way, so I'm gonna try not to go on tangents. I just have a tendency to do so. Once again, scriptless, so I apologize. But I find so yeah. So pretty much what ends up happening is Agent Mobius has pretty much chastises and belittles Loki, asks him why he does the things he does. Why is he evil? Is he evil? Does he take pleasure in killing people? And the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, all right, what's the base of this? I understand that, like, I know that he's not just doing this for his sake. He's not doing this for shits and giggles. There's something he's trying to get out of it, and his motivations are unknown to us as of right now. And Loki is completely powerless in this situation, and it's kind of sad because every time we see Loki, he's always like, I am a god, I am a god, I am a god, I am a god. And time after time after time again, he is bitched after bitched after bitched. And he has this time collar on him that anytime he tries to escape or do something, all Agent Mobius has to do is press a button and it rewinds time and just puts him back in his place. And once again, he eventually does try to use magic at some point during the series, and it does not work. And I'm just trying to figure out what kind of force is at work that doesn't allow an Asgardian god to use his powers. Now, something I want to mention about as the gods in the MCU universe and Marvel comics in general aren't actually gods, fun fact. Or it's more accurate to say that there's levels to this shit, right? So basically, I would say Asgardian gods and some of these other people, like New Gods, I think New Gods is DC, but all these other gods in the series aren't pure what we think of as God, right? Because we have in the Marvel, we have people like the Beyonder that are more godlike and that can reality warp and stuff like that. We have the one above all. We have so many actual can Big Bang create whatever gods. So what basically happens is you have all these really higher forms of life that realize that, hey, we're higher forms of life. We're immortal. We can't die. So we kind of self-proclaim ourselves as gods. And that's for those of you trying to like understand how gods could be so powerless, how someone like Loki could be so powerless. That's kind of the explanation I have for you, where they're higher life forms, yes, but they still shy greatly away from the realm of super gods. Also, I think that we're not right now. I don't think this is a multiverse thing. I think this is a timeline thing, which technically adds to the multiverse. I think there's multiverses, and then there's multiverse timelines. And so this is within each verse, they have, alternate timelines, which technically, once again, makes a multiverse. I know it's confusing. Anytime you add time travel to anything, it gets convoluted and crazy as hell. But basically, I want to go back to when Loki is, being interrogated and whatnot. He basically is watching a timeline of his life and all the events that happen, and events that he does and events that are yet to come. And there's several scenes that really interest me. And and one thing it seems like is Agent Mobius is trying to get Loki to realize that like there's more to him than he realizes. And the fact that he says he's a fan and he's been following his work is really interesting. And then there's just really subtle nuances to things that I think are going to come into play. Like, for example, Mobius makes a point to show and dictate that, one, Loki's completely powerless, and two, that he knows everything that he's going to do. Loki is a narcissist. Loki is a narcissist in every form of the way. And like, can you blame him? And the special thing about Loki is he is the perfect example of someone with like a Napoleon complex. No, he's not short, but his entire life, he's always been not even second, but third fiddle. He's always, been, inferior to his brother Thor. He was the adopted kid, so he has issues with that. He wasn't quite, Thor was the son that, Odin always loved and respected. He was kind of like the black sheep, right? He always felt like he didn't belong. He always felt lesser than. And so all these grandiose displays of authority and blah, I'm the shit, that and the other, are just his way of deflecting and like just hiding his pain and trying to overcome stuff. I love the part that he even acknowledges that like I'm the god of mischief or whatever. All the things I do are necessary because I'm truly weak. We see how weak he is. We see all the time, like from Hulk to Thanos to just everyone that has ever bitched him, and we see why he has to act that way. He has to, bulk himself up, build himself up, so that people can buy into his illusion, can buy into the affront that is Loki, the powerless god. And one thing I really love is what the last thing his mom says to him is, Loki, you're always good at like perceiving others, better at perceiving others than you were yourself. And I think what the whole point of this entire series is it's going to be like a call to action, a waking of a hero, or at least anti-hero, in Loki. Because at the very end of the episode, we find out that the variant that they're currently tracking down that's killing all their people is Loki himself. And so it brings up many questions. How is it Loki if Loki's here? Does the timeline, is there a variation of Loki that continues? Is this a different Loki from a different dimension? Is the TVA in charge of one dimension, or all the timelines in all the various dimensions? Are there worse Lokis? Are there nice Lokis? Are we going to get multiple Lokis? Or is this just one Loki? And so my big theory in this is that the events of this Loki miniseries is what will bring birth to the current threat Loki that they're hunting. I think that it's going to be one of those things. There's been many movies that do this, but it's going to be one of those things at all the things that are happening, every episode, all the small things and working within the time is going to give birth to this great and powerful Loki, right? And I think another part of what gave me that clue was, one, when he goes up to the judge and she's like, if you're thinking about trying to do what I think you're doing, you should stop. You shouldn't do it. And so I think that Mobius believes that, hey, if I can convince Loki to be good, to help us, it will prevent the series of events that lead to this Loki, this time variant Loki that's way more powerful than the Loki we're dealing with. Maybe I can talk to him. I know his greatest hits. Maybe, the fork in the road where, he chooses evil, I can get him to choose good. And I think that's part of why he was chastising him and antagonizing him earlier in that interview, because he wants him to get into that whole, I kind of sympathize with Loki in this one regard. I hate being told what to do. For example, if there's a piece of trash on the floor and I'm about to pick it up, if you tell me, hey, pick up that piece of trash, what are you doing? I no longer want to pick up that piece of trash. I don't know what it is. I think it's something about having bodily autonomy, but like a lot of us people do not like to like to be told what to do. They do not like to be controlled. They do not like to feel like they don't have free will. One of the greatest things about humans is our free will. And so there are many instances in the series where his free will is tested, where it's joked about. One of my favorite parts is where Loki goes to stand up and Mobius puts him back in his chair. And then Loki, to kind of feign like, whatever, I'm still in control, you're not in control of me, is like, what, I was just making a point. And the Mobius like, oh, cool, go ahead, you can walk then. Basically giving Loki his permission. And Loki's like, screw that, no one gives me permission to do shit, I'm not gonna do it. And he's like, all right, fine, you can stay seated. And now, once again, it's kind of like a catch-22, like, if I stand up, I'm playing into his hand. If I sit down, I'm playing into his hand. But you know what? I do what I want at the end of the day. So he stands up and walks, even though it fits into what Mobius originally planned, knew, and wanted. But at the end of the day, he chose, you know what? Screw all this. I act how I want to act. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be a whole thing where he's going to be told that he turns evil. It's his destiny. It's what's going to happen. It can't change. And Loki, being the indignant, obstinate motherfucker he is going to be like, hell no, and be a hero. Because we also see during all those flashbacks and those various timelines and stuff that he is kind of a legitimately decent person. He's not full on bad, which once again, I personally don't like, but I get that the MCU is doing their whole rebrand. They understand that Loki's a really popular character, so this is a cash grab for them. So they're going to go in this light that's going to make people like Loki, the quote unquote anti-hero. So I think that's something really I think that's something that's going to be really interesting as we get to explore who Loki is. But like we said, we finally got to see him really, really vulnerable, and he admits to us that, hey, like, I don't take pleasure in killing people. I don't want to do all these things. I find it necessary. One, because I truly believe that humans are better off under my control and authority. Freedom of choice, freedom of will, like, corrupts people. It makes life hard for them. There's the paradox of choice. You should look that up. Too many choices can stifle people and keep them kind of frozen. And also, it helps to elevate him, because once again, he has this kind of inferiority complex where, even though he's a god, he has always been a lesser god amongst gods. Constantly surrounded by people that are better than him. And we're kind of going in this route of, like I said before, Loki's not a bad guy. He's just kind of a head ass. He's kind of like Tyrion Lannister, where, like, yeah, he grew up spoiled. He grew up being told he's the greatest, he's the best, yada yada. But despite that, he's still amongst the best on the lower tier because of his individual stuff. He's born from an ice giant, yada 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 yada. So I'm really looking forward to this entire series. I don't know if I'm going to cover every episode. It's honestly going to be how I feel. I will definitely do a series like finale kind of thing where I do the entire series as a whole. That's going to happen. But as far as doing episode to episode to episode, that's kind of up in the air right now. But as of right now, it's a very interesting story. I'm very interested in what they're going to do. I'm very interested in this time variant Loki. Is it just one big bad Loki? Are there multiple variant Lokis? We also know that, if you read comics and all that Loki transforms into anything he wants. He could be a man, he could be a woman, he gave birth to the world serpent, so he can be anything he wants. I'm curious about how he's gonna get his powers, because he tried to use the Tesseract. It didn't work. He tried to use his magic. It didn't work. I was kind of hoping that this story would lead into the rise of Loki, the god of chaos, because I forget if it's MCU or if it's the actual Norse mythology, but for the longest time, he was the god of mischief, treachery, lies, and deceit, and stuff like that. All kind of, not that big a deal. All that stuff is like annoying or whatever, but that doesn't strike fear. And then he eventually levels up and becomes the god of chaos. Now we do have, that can tie into kind of WandaVision, who is, the Scarlet Witch. She controls chaos magic, and Loki at a certain point becomes the god of chaos. So that's a whole nother thing that I'm super interested in. Will she tie into that? Another thing I'm interested in is I've been hearing rumors and theories that Kang the Conqueror is going to be the big bad in this next segment of the MCU. For those of you who don't know who Kang the Conqueror is, fun fact, I don't know who he is that much either. All I know is he's a really big bad, probably as powerful, if not more powerful than Thanos, and loves to go take over various timelines. So his goal isn't taking over the world, taking over the universe, it's taking over timelines. And something interesting that comes from Kang the Conqueror is basically, long story short, someone goes back in time to try to stop Kang the Conqueror from becoming Kang the Conqueror and meets him as a kid. The kid version of him is still good at heart, and when it's told about his future as King the Conqueror and all the evil things he's gonna do, is like, fuck that, screw that. I don't want to be bad. I want to be good, and I don't want this future to come to fruition, right? And so what ends up happening is they take the kid from his timeline or whatever, and then place him in the 616 modern timeline, and he becomes a character called Iron Lad. And he has Kang the Conqueror's armor, which can turn into anything. So he has it take on the visage of a smaller Iron Man suit, and he joins the Young Avengers. And I've been hearing a lot about the Young Avengers. So I really do think this show has potential to tie in numerous things that would be super cool. We get to explore multiple timelines, get to explore multiple verses and stuff, and things of that nature. So yeah. One other thing I want to talk about is the fact that the Infinity Stones, the thing that were touted and known to be the most powerful force of energy in the entire universe, is nothing to the TVA. Is nothing. And so it makes me wonder, all right, where are they? Because one thing I've always known is that the Infinity Stones only work in the respective universe they are from. Now, I don't know if that applies to timeline, but I do know that, like, if I'm in universe 616 and I go to universe 617, with the stones, whatever, the stones I have from 616 will not work in 617. So I'm wondering if it's something kind of like this for the TVA. But the fact that they're so docile and do nothing, that some of the other employees here use them as, paperweights, speaks a lot. And then there's a really important moment in the series where Loki, upon like realizing that the Infinity Stones are useless here, looking at the timeline thing, he said, "Is this the ultimate authority? Is this the ultimate power?" And so I think that goes further into my theory of Loki is sick and tired of being the butt of the joke, of being the god of clowns as opposed to the god of mischief and stuff like that. And so I think he's gonna realize that, hey, they have a power that even trumps mine as a quote unquote god of Asgard. So if I can have dominion, if I can have control over this power, I can definitely reach what I believe to be my potential, to reach what I believe I should be at, right? And so at the very end, you see this hooded figure. My friend was saying it could be a red herring. It might not even be Loki. Could be Loki. I don't know. We'll see. But they take the reset charges. There are these charges that you put down, and within how the Men in Black have that thing, boom, they flash you, you forget all your memories, and they give you new ones. This is kind of something like that, where instead of doing that, it just resets everything that just happened. You don't have any knowledge of anything. It resets the timeline, gets rid of the deviation in the timeline, so things can continue. And so whoever this person is, we can assume it's the other variant, Loki, or a different character in particular, is collecting these. So I'm assuming that whatever these have whatever chronal energy is needed that is utilized by the TVA to do all the things that they've been doing and to control all the things that they've been doing. So there is a lot of potential in this series. I can't wait to get into it. I truly do think that at the end of the day, it's going to be a situation where Loki has to decide to become good and help all of humanity and the universe and the timeline, right? There is a chance that he may end up just straight going bad. I don't really think that's going to happen. I also do think there is a chance that there's going to be kind of a plot twist and potentially Agent Mobius turns evil. That could be interesting. But once again, I feel like they would know about that because of, monitoring the timeline. I'm wondering if we'll ever meet the timekeepers because, Loki asked the time judge, hey, what's your role in all this? And she's like, first he's like, what's the role of the timekeepers? And they're like, they dictate, what happens in the flow of time. And then he's like, what's your job? And she's like, I dictate their dictations. And so it was very interesting, but I wonder if we'll see them. I wonder if we'll see the time twisters. Time twisters were originally supposed to protect the flow of time and help the future, but then they kind of went and did their own thing. They were failed creations, and so there came a point in time where they had to go to the person that originally created both the time twisters and the time keepers to have them fix it. Thor had to do this a bunch, and he had to do this with a bunch of other people. So, oh yeah, Agent Mobius actually was the one that recruited Thor and a bunch of the other people to help with this. So yeah, man, there's a lot of possibilities at work. As far as a first episode, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. If you're a Loki fan, like my friend who was disappointed because he was like a puppy dog in this and he got bitched a lot, I apologize, but hey man, the MCU does that. I'm sorry, like have y'all not seen Hulk? Have you not seen some of the other heroes? In order to tell a story, in order to have realism, you have to kind of dumb some things down. You kind of have to, play some parts out. Certain things don't work in live action. And so I think that, in their honest attempts to kind of rectify this, they do make some mistakes here or there, but I do think they're trying. I have made myself a promise whenever I watch these shows not to try to force my knowledge of the source material onto it, even though I truly, truly believe you should stick to as close to the source material as you can while taking some liberties here and there to make it interesting and to surprise the audience. But I'm just saying the source material is the reason that you're able to create this product in the first place, that this thing is even popular in the first place. So I think it's kind of important to show respect and loyalty to it and just kind of, honor the fans of the original material that are going to watch this because it stems from something they love in the first place. But yeah, I think I've covered every single thing I wanted to cover. But just to hit the cliff notes and sparking notes before I sign out, um, pretty good premiere episode. I'm very curious about how this variant Loki that's going around killing the TVA is doing it, because this current Loki we're seeing is pretty powerless, can't do much. When the TVA showed up in the first place, they took care of him very, very easily.
It was super easy, barely an inconvenience.
And on top of that, like it seems that their chronal time powers supersede whatever powers he has. So I'm just going to assume that somehow he found a way to hijack their abilities. This is a Loki that suffered some kind of. I just want to know where, and at what point was there another time Loki traveled in time that this could have happened? Otherwise, it's definitely going to be a series of events of this Loki variant transforming into the threat of the future that is currently causing chaos. So once again, I know that sounded super crazy and convoluted, but hey, that's just time travel for you. That's just whenever you play with time, things get convoluted and confusing. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed this review, this analysis, the theory. Please like, share, and subscribe. It would mean the world to me, and I appreciate it. Join my League of Otaku. Have a great day. Take care.